Hi, I'm Vicki Wessling with the City of Dunkirk and with Dunkirk Access. We're here today with Roy Davis and Roger Schulenberg at the Chautauqua County Fairgrounds. Today we're going to visit the History Museum for our locomotive train number 444. And this is a train has been here now for quite some time. So we're going to go inside, and this is kind of every child's dream to be on the engine of a train. So come with me. Okay, so this is the Fletcher Granite Company 444. It was purchased from Boston and Maine Railroad in June of 1952 for use in their West Chelmsford, Massachusetts quarry. Fletcher Granite Company donated 444 to the Historical Society of Dunkirk, New York in August of 1986. And this plaque, or this monument that is here, was actually made from the Fletcher Chelmsford Gray Granite Company. Okay, now we're here with Dave Wilson. Now, Dave, tell us a little bit about how the train came about being here and its significance to the area.
Well, quite a few years ago, the Historical Society and Roy Davis approached the fair. They really didn't have no place around to put this monstrous thing, and so they approached the fair and said, would you be interested? And it was like, well, absolutely we would be. And where do you want to put it? Well, so we looked around, and this was a perfect spot. So we said, well, Roy, start laying railroad ties and bring your train in here and have at it. And they've done a lot of work. We are very, very happy to have this showcased at the Chautauqua County Fairgrounds. The railroad people, they do a lot with it, and it's open to the public. We make it part of our annual Chautauqua County Fair, and so we're just very pleased to have it here.
Okay, and I see Mr. Schulenberg and Mr. Davis are here with us. So, guys, come on, tell us a little bit about the train, about how it came to be here, and what its significance is to this area.
Well, of course, Dunkirk has been was the home of Brooks Locomotive Works since 1872. So it was been a long-time goal of the Dunkirk Historical Society to bring back one of the products here. And back in the early 80s, we started an effort to locate one and bring one home. So in 1987, I guess it was,
86
when we were up there,
we found it.
up in Massachusetts, and through a long campaign, we were able to bring it back here and work with the fair board to find a site for it here. So it's been here since 1987, and it's been a mark of our local historical history here, and we're glad to have it open to the public and share some of that history with the next generations.
And now I understand that a lot of this, when it came to be, we had to have some volunteers, we had to have some people donate some funds.
Many.
So tell me about, how did they go about donating funds, and what did they get for that?
Well, we started a project called Buy a Tie, and we will show in the boxcar we have a big long switch tie with the brass tags on of everybody that donated for the Buy a Tie Fund. That raised us over $22,000 to bring the train to this site. The major costs, of course, were cranes to lift the locomotive and the tender onto heavy-duty truck trailers, transported to a rail siding in West Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and loaded on flat cars to be shipped here to Dunkirk, where it was offloaded at then it was Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation. They were the only company in town that had an overhead crane big enough to lift a 75-ton locomotive.
And now the crane was, what, 150-ton crane? Did I read that correctly?
Well, the ones they brought in from Massachusetts, they were heavy-duty cranes, construction cranes that lifted in onto the...
Two Benchley cranes here to offload it from the racetrack onto the track, which we built by hand. We were much younger men at that time.
We all were, I think. Well, now, where do you want to go from here? Do you want to go? Are we going to go inside?
Let's start with the engine.
You already got some pictures of the front.
We took some pictures up in the front. I actually climbed up there. I hope that was okay. I'm just a child at heart, let me tell you.
Well, good.
So we're going up to 444, engine 444. Now, Roy, how many, do you normally have tours that go through here?
Oh, yes. Sometimes there's bus tours. A lot of times there's various rail people that hear about us or read about us in the railroad magazines and so forth, and make contact with the museum or myself or Roger, and they come up to visit the engine throughout the year. And we try and be open during major events here at the fairgrounds, and we just had to get on a train day with a ladies group. We had over 250 people here in 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon.
Right, that was significant, of course, and the purpose of that, to get on a train day was also not just to show them the train, but I believe there is an effort, and Mayor Rosas is involved with that as well, to bring an Amtrak passenger.
Dunkirk, yes. That was worked on many years ago. I was on the committee. There was meetings with different various officials, and they had to stop designated, but there was a change in politics, and it got dropped. We're hoping to revitalize that once again.
Well, let's hope that works. Okay, so now tell us a little bit about this. What's going on?
Well, this is locomotive number 444. It was originally built for the Boston and Maine Railroad here in December of 1916. It was shipped there. It was used for local freight service and commuter service out of the Boston area and throughout New England. They sold it, I think it was 1953, 52, to the Fletcher Granite Company up in Westchester, Massachusetts, where they used it in their granite quarry for about a year and a half or so, and then it was replaced with a little diesel. But fortunately for us, when they were done with it, they put it on a siding and left it. We had a good friend that we knew from Titusville that was relocated to Acton, Massachusetts. This was John Chick. He has since passed away, but he sent us the first photographs of this engine sitting at the quarry. So we reached out to the people at the quarry if they were willing to donate it. They come back and said yes, if you assume all expenses to get it off our property, which we raised the money to do that. So numerous trips from Roger, myself, many other volunteers from Dunkirk here, men and women, we all went up there and worked on the locomotive, getting it ready to move. And then they pulled it out of the brush down to their work site and separated the engine and the tender, and loaded the locomotive on one heavy-duty low-boy truck trailer and the one on another trailer. And it took it about a mile through town to a rail siding where it was loaded on flat cars and shipped here to Dunkirk.
That is just an amazing story when we talk about how these things come about. And we look at the engine, we look at all these things that are here, and such a big part of the history of the city of Dunkirk. From ALCO, Brooks, certainly, the history just doesn't stop. And this engine looks huge.
Oh, this is a small one. They built locomotives that would fill this whole track. In their search for a locomotive to come back, society found about 43 existing locomotives in North America. Many of them were in town parks. Some were parked on a junkyard-like basis. And there were about 6 of them that were still in service, pulling excursion trains throughout little communities in the U.S.
That's what we need, an excursion train. Now, for the person such as myself, I'm very, very very ignorant of the difference between an engine and a tender, and I hear you refer to that. So tell me, what is a tender?
The engine is here, of course, and the tender is right here behind you.
Okay, so the tender is where the coal must be.
Coal would be in the bunker here, and the tank that surrounded the coal held the water. So that would keep the engine going for a shift. The coal usually would last for the full day. Water, it may need more depending on if it was pulling many cars or grades and where it was at.
So the tender basically, would be, if I were to fall back on my grammar, it would be called an attender, right? It would attend to the engine.
Locomotive. It carried 9 tons of coal and 4,500 gallons of water back here.
Okay, that's great. Now, where should we go from here?
Well, first you have to ring the bell for us.
Oh, I get to ring the bell?
Absolutely.
Oh, how wonderful! Oh, well, I'm a child. So I just pull?
Pull down.
I love it. Now,
everybody loves to ring the bell.
Oh, I guess so. That's great.
The engineer had a seat on this side where he manned the controls. This is the air brakes for stopping the engine, for stopping the train. These were called tricocks. These are double-check the water level in the boiler. Then you had your sight glass here for you could see the water level. On the far side, there would be a reverser on the side, and the rod hanging down from up above is your throttle. Big brass thing here is the lubricator. You see the air gauges up there and to the right, and in top dead center is a steam gauge. We had to maintain probably around 160, 170 pounds of steam for good efficiency. The firemen and head end brakemen just had a bench on the other side here, where they would constantly be shoveling coal. The firemen and the brakemen would be out throwing the switches, directing the train to different tracks.
Well, you know, this is just fascinating to me. And when I look at all the gears and the things to turn and the pipes and it's just fascinating. So I love it. So anybody who has not been here, you need to come down.
Come visit us, please.
And this is open not just during Fair Week, but it's open.
During events or contact the museum. We'd be glad to meet people here or groups and take them through.
So this is something people want to take a look at. All right, where are we headed to next?
Boxcar.
All right.
A little plaque on here that describes the locomotive donated by Fletcher Granite Company, West Chelmsford, by Mr. Bikini, in honor of all the men and women employed at the Brooks Locomotive Works and American Locomotive Company, Brooks Works, and ALCO Products from the time they leased the place in 1869 till the last people left in 1963.
Wow. You know, it is just amazing when you think about how all of the people who helped to pull this together and who helped to work together. Come in, Mr. Schulenberg. Talk to us a little bit. Tell us what's your role in all of this?
Well, there's a lot of skills involved here. You know, we have a mechanic, we have a carpenter, and I have no particular skills except to carry heavy things and can paint. So, but it takes all people of all kinds to make this work. And we're always looking for additional people with some basic home skills to come and help us to preserve our railroad history and to do some basic maintenance, a little light carpentry, a little painting and those kind of things. Even mowing the grass takes a lot of time.
So if we were looking for somebody, volunteers to come in and help, who should they contact?
Well, contact the Dunkirk Historical Society, and we'd be glad to set you up and get you trained on what little programs we need to do around here, and we welcome the help. We're always looking for additional people who are interested in local history and want to help preserve it.
Okay, well, let's head to the boxcar now and see what that has to offer. Now, did the boxcar come separate from the engine?
Yes. This tells a little bit about the original car. It was donated by L-Tech Specialty Steel right here in Dunkirk. They had this car and another car on a siding next to the plant for storage. It was unique because this car dates back to 1907 when it was originally constructed.
That's pretty old. I'm not even that old.
We'll go up the steps here.
Okay.
What's interesting is that 3 years ago, we were able to secure a grant from the Northern Chautauqua County Community Foundation to help us rebuild this boxcar. The old wood that was on there wasn't even going to hold paint anymore, and we made a decision to rebuild the whole thing. So we were able to secure some new materials. It's super dried wood that's been baked in a kiln for a long time, and dries moisture out, and it changes the sugars in the wood to something that insects will not eat. So this wood that's been applied now through that grant should last at least 40 years. So that's been a wonderful renewal of this old wooden boxcar. There are not a lot of them around anymore.
That's wonderful. That's amazing. Okay, shall we go up?
Yes.
All right. So now the boxcars, I know this one was on the siding, so what did this particular boxcar store? Do you know?
This was a general purpose boxcar built for the Delaware and Hudson Railroad and was used in general freight service around the whole country. And it was set up for, you could put a load of bulk grain in here, or a load of bricks, or a load of canned goods, anything that you could fit in a enclosed space that you wanted to keep dry and out of the weather. So it was a general purpose boxcar. But it got too old for the railroad use, so that was sold off to Al-Tech Steel, or Allegheny and Ludlam at the time, as a storage vehicle.
Now, is this basically the original architecture? You would have had these steel beams and...
This is the car is intact the way it was built, particularly on the inside. All we did was renew the exterior siding on it. Right. So this is a very, very nice history lesson on freight car design, if you're into that, like some of us are. But it also serves well as our display area for some of our local history, and our sales area that helps us support the display, keeping paint on the pieces and provide for our maintenance here.
Oh, well, I'll have to come back and buy one of our hats. That's great. So now we have, now obviously you put the electric in, is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Remember I mentioned the buy a tie program a few years ago. Originally these little brass tags are on the ties outside, but they're not held up to the weather. So they were replaced with new tags. These are from the very first people that donated to the very last people who donated $100 or more for this, maintaining this display and bringing it here.
There's still space on the tie for more, so if anyone's interested in
Okay.
adding their tag to this tie, help us out. Or their buy a tie program is still in place for a $100 donation.
Okay, so $100 will let you put your name on here. You can buy a tie,
help us
and
preserve it.
right, and you'll have a plaque on here for your name on the tie forever, right?
Very good. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, so we'll be looking for donors. Thank you in advance.
The
Map of Chautauqua County,
Oh, all right.
where all the railroads and trolley lines that we used to travel about the county through the years. The key out the side here then shows when the line was opened and when it ended. If there's no date after it, it's still in service. And all the old stations that used to be located throughout Chautauqua County.
So, I mean, really, so people can really come and they can see the different, see how it used to be and certainly,
Traveled back then, yes.
right.
It's been a very popular display. The kids come in, the parents show them where their hometown is and what station used to be there, and it really is a teaching tool for the families that come in here. Like, everybody loves that. Very popular display.
Okay, where are we off to next?
Well, of course, we got
Oh, certainly Horatio Brooks.
Born in 1828 up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. He hung around the rail yards as a teenager and went to work for the Boston and Maine, of all companies, same as our locomotive was made for, at Andover. He came to Dunkirk with the building of the Erie Railroad in 1850 to transport the first steam engine to Dunkirk via the lakes and the canal. And then when the Erie was completed and opened in May of 15th of 1851, he was on not the lead engine coming in, but the engine that went out to meet the train. And Brooks, of course, was superintendent of the Erie Railroad shops here. He went to work for another railroad out in the Midwest and then came back and was promoted. And then when the Erie decided to relocate their shops from Dunkirk to Hornell, it was Hornellsville back then, he and some investors got together and leased the shops and started the Brooks Locomotive Works.
So he's of course, Brooks is everywhere, so we know that, we have a lot to be beholding to him for.
Over here we have the layout of the plant. Roger?
Yeah, this is a diagram of the ALCO plant in about 1927, I believe it is. And this shows the full extent of what the facility used to be, including the main office here, where the Neptune fountain used to be way back when. Some of these buildings are still in existence. This is Cliff Star, or now Refresco. This is the old, what was later the carriage house or craft plant. And so those people who have been around here for a while may remember this building in operation as the original Ames department store was in there. Those buildings are still in existence today. This building just came down. Was the old shop.
Wasn't that the Edgewater?
Yes. Before that, it was number 44. It was the machine shop, later Plymouth Tube and Edgewood Warehouse, and that just came down to make a room for the new refrigerated warehouse that's going up today. So some of these facilities are still producing economic benefit for our community, but at this point in time, you can see the extent of the facility, both east and west of Roberts Road. And at this point in time, there's about 5,000 people employed in the building. So that was a major employer in town, and everybody had either a father or a brother or someone who worked in the plant. That was the economic driver for Dunkirk.
Yeah, those were the good old days, right? That's what they talk about. Okay, let's head out someplace cooler. All right, now we're going to go from the boxcar into the caboose, and the caboose is always at the end of the train, right?
Yes.
So
The red caboose always came last.
That's right. So now tell me a little bit about this before we head inside.
Well, this caboose was built in 1905, and for the New York Central Railroad. And it's interesting to note that all three pieces here were built in New York State. So back when we made things here. But this is a wooden caboose, and was a standard wooden caboose for the New York Central Railroad. It was in service till about 1962, mid-60s anyways, and it was sold to a construction company in Cleveland, who just set it on their track for a while. And then we bought it from there, brought it back here as our first piece that we accumulated. But it's the living quarters for the caboose. We can tell more about that when we get inside.
Okay, all right, well, let's go inside. Okay, all right, we're getting ready to enter the caboose, and so now this looks like it has benches and bunks. Is this where people slept?
This is where they kind of took a break. Also, it was important for the conductor and the rear end brakeman to watch over the train as they went down the track. The conductor maintained all the paperwork as far as switching, where they would stop and pick up rail cars and set out rail cars, and the brakeman would be down there throwing the switches. And back in the days before they had radios and that type of communication, they had a flagman who would go out and protect the rear of the train and flag crossings.
Okay, now I notice up here as I'm looking backwards, there's is that a steering wheel? What is this?
That would be a handbrake.
A handbrake, okay.
When the car was parked, they'd wind that up and would pull the brake shoes tight to the wheels so it would not move.
Oh, okay, very good.
Everything had them, even the caboose had them.
Oh, all right, so this has one as well.
Yes.
A parking brake. So obviously safety was a concern then as well.
Secure them from movement.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's step inside here.
So they had bunks here to stretch out on, or to sit on, and a little table that folded down for they could have like a lunch break or dinner break. They had a stove to cook on, and to heat, and underneath the.
And obviously the stove is coal-fired.
During the fair, a lot of times we play videos, so this is an add-on, having this video.
We find that we needed to leave examples of coal out because a lot of the younger kids have never seen coal. True. So we have to show them what coal used to look like. All they know is if they're bad, they get it at Christmas time.
And I'm not so sure that story even goes around anymore. So they really had to. This was kind of their living quarters.
Yes, this was a freight trains, crews, a rolling office, and living quarters away from their home terminal. So at the end of the day, they might be 100 miles or so from where they started. So they would, in the early days, they would stay on the caboose and do their cooking and living quarters in here. And as I say, a rolling office for the conductor.
All right, very good. And so now we have.
Actually, we have the raised what we call a cupola.
Okay.
Crew would come climb up the steps there in the side there, and sit up above and watch over the train as it's going down the track.
Oh, all right.
It was another part of the safety of the train's movement.
Okay, so they would actually climb up. I'm not going to do that.
And then they could step over.
Right. So we have ice boxes and storage and, little sink. So this was really quite complete, quite compact.
Original mobile home. Yes.
Yeah. Good way to put it. The original mobile home. Absolutely.
Yes.
So this must be the lavatory?
The outhouse on wheels.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is just amazing when I go through here and I see all the things. So now the children, obviously, when they come in, you have coloring books so they can donate. If they donate, do they get a coloring book?
They're all free. It's all.
Books are free. Okay.
From Operation Lifesaver, safety around the railroads. Operation Lifesaver promotes safety around the railroads for young people.
All right. Well, when I go through here, I just am amazed at the history and everything that we have, and I think this is awesome. So I really appreciate you all showing us around. What else do we need to see here before we head out?
Well, that's exactly why we're here, is to show off the railroad history, and it's a slice of life that doesn't exist anymore, but was important for the community and the industry around here. So. All
right, let's go out and walk around the back of the train. Okay, so now we're looking at the other side of the engine. We'd seen the first side before in the front. This is the other side with the Fletcher Granite Company, Boston and Maine. This is just huge. As I go through, the upkeep for this has to be phenomenal, just to keep it all shined and painted and cleaned. So volunteers are definitely needed. Well, this is, and of course we have the window up here where the engineer would look out. And the other side where you can ring the bell. Okay. What is this?
This is an old baggage wagon that came out of the Dunkirk train station. It was donated by Leonard Coniglio, whose brother was an employee of the railroad at New York Central. And Mr. Coniglio donated it to our museum, and this one's placed here, and there's another one at the museum in Dunkirk.
So this is the original baggage wagon.
When the passenger train arrived, people's suitcases and trunks and milk cans and all those things would be loaded on that, taken upstairs, put in the baggage car to where it was going.
So, and now look at the wheels. Are these wheels, did they ever have rubber on them?
No, those were the original steel wheels, and usually were on a brick platform, so they were noisy when they rolled around. But they're very durable and very typical of a baggage wagon.
So when we go to the airports and we see their baggage carts, this is where it all started.
The predecessor. This is the grandfather of all those trolleys.
So really, when we think about the history of trains, not only was it one of the mode of transportation way back when, but also we have the first mobile home with our caboose because it's fully equipped where they lived. We have the original baggage cart. So it's not as if trains are truly obsolete. They really have become, they really were the beginning of travel.
Yeah, the freight railroads are very productive, very efficient, and move an increasing amount of interstate traffic. It's just that we don't have a chance to ride them anymore. Amtrak is only a shadow of what passenger service used to be in this country.
Well, and that's too bad. So let's take a walk back here and see this. Now we have the arms that come down or bells that ring, right?
Well, that is a semaphore. That was used to indicate to the trains coming if they had a clear track ahead or if they had to stop or go at a slower speed. The light would shine through the semaphore up above, indicating either red for stop, a yellow for approach to slow down, or green is the regular track speed.
And then what is the yellow cart?
Down below here we have a push cart that was put the railroad materials on, like tie plates and spikes and so forth. And then the hand car that the train track people would use to get out to their work sites. We'd have to pump that up and down and it ran the car down the track. Just like riding a bicycle, kind of.
Right. Well, this, and I look at the tracks and I look at all the different things that we have back here. Is this extra track just lying around in the event that something?
Well, we have some extra rail, but we also built this siding here to park our stuff on. If we need be someday, we could extend it through the gate, but this is enough for us to take care of right now. Then we have a little shanty that we built here to keep our equipment in for working on the grounds here.
Well, this has just been absolutely fascinating. I think to be able to come out here to the museum and take a look at things and see what's happening, and people really need to take advantage of the history that the city of Dunkirk has, because it's just when you look at the trains and you look at everything that they have and what they did for us, what they did for our country, really.
And they still do. They move a massive amount of freight. And more people are riding the Amtrak passenger trains every year.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Roger. And thank you, Dave. Thank you for letting Dunkirk Access and City Speaks come out and take a look at what we have and look at your trains. We really encourage people, get involved with the history for the city of Dunkirk, because there is a lot of it. So if you need to volunteer, this is a place to go.
Come to the fair and visit our train and ring the bell.
Absolutely.
That's right. Come to the fair, ring the bell. Absolutely. Thank you for watching City Speaks. You can watch City Speaks daily, 3 and 10 on Dunkirk Access 1301. Like us on Facebook. Tweet us. Let us know what you think. And thank you so much. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.